I spent a good bit of the day reading it. Let me read a couple of paragraphs which I think set a tone for this evening. The rural school experience of plain, simple buildings, outdoor toilets, hand-me-down textbooks, and walking to school in pleasant weather and bad can look bleak when compared to what schools can offer today. However, hidden beneath that appearance were rich experiences and many outstanding achievements. The real legacy of one-room schools in Johnson County is found not in buildings, but in the lives of students and teachers who attended and taught in these schools. The simplest statements can be the most profound. Frank and Jane went with us to Alaska the other summer, and Frank was doing research on his book. And he sat across from the table and he asked my brother Nelson what his one-sentence comment would be about going to a one-room country school. And Nelson said this: "I would not trade those years for anything." Walking to school, carrying a lunch pail, playing games at recess, sitting at a desk, listening to other classes recite their lessons, trips to the outhouse, presenting the Christmas program, sledding, spreading sweeping compound on the floor and sliding on it to collect the dirt and the dust. 8th grade graduation at McBride Auditorium. These memories and a few remaining one-room school buildings scattered around Johnson County are what remain of an earlier time. It is an era that will not return. Some of you have already purchased books on the way in. There's a table over there. We have over 50 books here. If you want to, Johnson County. They go to Johnson County Historical Society. You pay for them and pick your books up over there. After the meeting, Frank will be there to sign your copy. Some of what we're going to do is panel discussion. Toward the end of the evening, or the second half, we're going to have the teachers here. I want to have a hand raise of all the teachers who taught in one-room country schools in Johnson or Washington County. 1, 2, 3, or any one-room country school. All right, we got quite a few. Yeah, we're going to have a bunch. We'll get you up later. All right. There are tables back there with memorabilia, and we hope that there's some time back or at the end of the meeting where you can share around the tables and tell some stories about that. The one other feature I'd like to close the evening with would be 3 or 4 stories from some of you Hanswashts. That means ornery kids. What are some ageless pranks that ought to be told? That may have been told before, but I'd like to hear some stories of pranks. I heard one the other night, and I will call on someone to tell that when the time comes. All right, we're going to begin with Gary. You come up. I want Gary Nassiger from our board to be my scribe. And I want you just to, we'll just go back through here. We want to get a list of all the elementary schools that are represented here, just to see. All right, right up here.
Evergreen.
Evergreen.
Sharon number 9, Evergreen.
Let's just go with whatever. We won't put 2 names on it now. You get
Elm Grove.
Elm Grove. Nobody gets 3. You get 1 school. All right, Gordon.
Evergreen, Sam.
All right. Just put a 2 with Evergreen. Or we got a couple. All right, coming down.
Hartsock.
Hartsock.
Evergreen.
All right.
Brush.
Brush number 8 or?
Brush number 8.
Brush number 8.
Firetown,
Oh, yeah.
number 6.
Right, okay. It's in the book.
East Lincoln.
You bet.
You bet.
You bet.
Mid-Prairie. And it was rural Mid-Prairie.
Oh, it was rural Mid-Prairie. That's what it was
Rural
called.
Mid-Prairie.
All right.
It was in Iowa County.
Right, okay. So that must have been where they got the name.
That's right.
All right.
West Lincoln.
Oh, yeah, West Lincoln. Oh, well, we can let that one off. I'm from East Lincoln, that's what. Maybe I should tell you a little about me, just so you know who this guy is up here. I went 8 years through. East Lincoln was known as Dumb 100. I was an elementary teacher in the public school, not in a one-room school, but in the public school for 8 years. And then I've been a pastor after that. So I do have some teaching experience. Back here. Okay?
Snake Hollow.
Snake Hollow, yeah, that hasn't been up there yet.
Pacific.
Pacific number
9.
Number 9. That sounds like a railroad. All right,
Whitehall.
Whitehall,
Evergreen.
Evergreen. Boone. We got a,
Byertown and Brush.
okay, Brush 8,
That's Hall. He's got, it's H-A-L-L.
Whitehall. One word, right?
No, it's 2 words.
See, that's what a city education does to you. All right,
What was after Whitehall?
look at it. All right, Vernon? Pleasant Hill. Oh, we got another Hartsock here.
Yeah, but Willow Grove also.
Oh, Willow Grove, sure. Frank, you have all these named in the book? All right, coming across. You. Oh yeah, yeah, I know. All right, we got some more different. Okay, get Boone in there.
Hickory Grove.
Hickory Grove. Well, let's do this on this side. Did yours not get? What didn't get mentioned over here yet?
Prairiedale.
Prairiedale? Oakland?
Middleburg.
All right, what do we have? Center, all right. Prairiedale, Hickory Grove, Oakland, Center? I think I missed one here. Prairiedale, Hickory Grove, Center, Oakland? That's one word.
Rush number
Okay, yeah.
Union Fillmore, better known as Pothead. That's up in Iowa County,
Yeah, what,
Whitehall.
it's not Whitehall though, right?
No, I just said another Iowa County.
Yeah. What was that again? I didn't catch it
Union
yet.
Fillmore, better known as Pothead.
Poplar.
Poplar Grove.
Okay. Okay. I tried to get somebody that could hear me. I'm sorry, Middleburg? Yes. Brush number 1, north of Freytown, right? Brush number 1. Woodland? Okay. Put a woodland up there, Gary? Lynn? Franklin. Was that up close to your farm?
Iowa County.
Iowa County, okay. All right, over here. What didn't get up here yet? Yeah.
Union number 7.
Union number 7.
Union number 7.
Horseshoe Bend.
Green Center.
Susan, come up here. I need somebody that hears better than me. Well, face it, I missed 2 of them here. Emma,
What did you say?
stand up so you can see. Please, thank you. Yeah, what are they?
Horseshoe Bend.
Horseshoe
Bend.
All right.
Byertown's up here already, isn't it?
We have one of the Bayard towns here. Anything else over here?
Green Center.
Green Center.
G-R-E-E-N-E.
Yeah. Greenie Center. Okay? Marv, where'd you go to school?
Prairiedale.
Prairiedale. All right. Did we get them all? Well, we wanted to just get a feel for the range of what happened. Now, this isn't really about commission and selling Frank's book, but I read much of it yesterday and today. And many of the schools, most of the schools are named. and different stories in Johnson County, not in Iowa County, not in Washington County, because Johnson County Historical Society were the ones that published it. So what I want us to do is to get into some of the stories, things that Frank wrote in his book, some of the things that were read. The old outhouses are gone. Very few of the buildings are there, but memories are. And so we want to keep some of those memories alive. I pulled together a random group of people that we're going to talk a little bit about our school experiences tonight for the first part of our meeting. And then Susan and Ruth Ann Bontrager, my wife Susan Gingerich, are going to lead us in some singing from the old red Together We Sing book. So, all right, our panel, come on up. Let me see, let me get the names here. Henry Slawball, Daniel Nicely, Linda Kemp, Irma Edwards, and Jim Yoder. Come up. Just have it ready to be on.
The mic right behind your mouth.
Testing. Start here.
Thank you.
We'll just start, tell us your name and the school you went to. We heard some of that, but just for a quick introduction, name and the school you went to.
I was Irma Yoder when I started school at Byertown and then finished at brush number 8.
Okay.
And I was Linda Geyer, and I started at Willow Grove and finished at Hartslock.
I'm Jim Yoder. I started at Snake Hollow and finished at Snake Hollow, the school that my dad went to and my grandma went to.
Okay.
I'm Daniel Nicely, and I went to Evergreen School all 9 years.
Okay.
Henry Slava. I started at Willow Grove, went to East Lincoln, and then back to Willow Grove again.
All right.
And I went to school with Firman. So
Yeah.
that's
Good, bad, or the other. All right. Now, talk about the schools. Did you have indoor plumbing?
yes, we did.
Who didn't? Who had to go outdoors for? Because I was surprised. Some people my age. Okay, you had outdoor plumbing, outdoor. Give it to Jim. Tell what that was like at 20 below in the wintertime.
It was cold.
Did you have to get permission?
Yeah, we had two outhouses, but we had an indoor sink so we could wash our hands before lunch or after recess. And after I left, they did put in an indoor bathroom. And Frank talked about that a little bit. The school district had money in their account, and they knew they put in this bathroom within 2 or 3 years, 4 years of closing the school. But they knew they had to spend the money or it was going to go back to the county. So they went ahead and put in indoor bathrooms for the last several years. So.
All right, what I'd like you each to be prepared to talk a little bit about is, if you're talking to someone, a child, someone who doesn't know your background, and you're telling them about your experience in one-room country school, was that good or bad? And then tell us why. You want to start it, Jim?
Okay, I would say it was a good experience, and the school was the community in our little area. I mean, that's where the Christmas play was, the ball games were, the school picnic, the preparation for the kid tournament, and it was like everybody participated. It didn't matter your age, and you all felt like you were part of the group, and you had support. Older kids would teach younger kids in the basement, and you could listen to the classes that were going on, which, I mean, everybody's had these experiences, and I benefited from that in the history class, but not probably so much in the arithmetic class. But it was all part of, it was, you felt like a community. There were some negative things that happened, but overall I'd say it was positive.
Overall, I'd say it was positive too. When I started at Willow Grove, we had Ori Kaiser as our teacher, and so, I'd never had a man teacher before, because all my Sunday school teachers were women. So that was a new experience for me, but then we moved over to the Hartsock district, and our teacher was a man also. But then the next year, we had so many kids in our district that we moved in the second schoolhouse and became the only 2-room, 1-room schoolhouse in Johnson County. So we had, then we had different teachers. So, but I would say in general, yes, it was community. That was, and my dad served on the school board for a while, and that's during the time when the second room came in, and those people became almost like your family because you were with them all the time, and our school district did a lot of things together besides just a picnic at the end of the year. So, and that was a lot of fun.
Well, my first experience at Byertown wasn't much of a community because there were 2 families represented in the school. There were 6 children. And so that was a very small group. And then when we moved up to Washington Township, that was, of course, a larger group. And then the downside to that is that I was a newcomer, and it was an established group of kids, and I was kind of an outside one for a number of years. But overall, it was a good experience.
One thing that we did a lot was coasting, especially in the wintertime when it was cold. We had a lot of hills, especially a big one north, and that one never did get gravelled. And so, and I don't think the other one was gravelled when I went to school, because we could usually coast down one hill and halfway up the other one, and then had a short walk to the top and then go down the other way. So,
And then, according to Frank's book, if you would time it at lunchtime to be at the furthest end, then you get extra 5-10 minutes before you'd have to come in for recess, right?
I don't remember that part.
I started Willow Grove at kindergarten, and that was relative good experience. And then I finished kindergarten in East Lincoln, and that went from a good experience to a real rather not so good experience. And I could explain why. Just one word, Firman Gingerich.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
I don't recall that we had an outhouse at Willow Grove. We did at Willow Grove we did, but not at East Lincoln. I don't think so. We also had indoor plumbing, so we had the option. If it got too busy, I know we would go outside occasionally, but yeah, that was sort of an optional thing there. No, I learned a lot. It was a good experience. And just like life, it had its bumps.
Just hang on to that a little bit. Maybe 2 or 3 of you describe what it was like between your time there between the lower and the upper grades. I don't need all of you, but just 2 or 3 of you.
I only would have, the school closed when I was in the 3rd grade, I believe it was, yeah, Willow Grove. Yeah, so I'm probably of the tail end of, because that's when the school started closing, and, yeah. So obviously I probably didn't get some of the experience that some of you did, although the Amish schools are very similar to one-room schools, and yet there is a difference. There obviously is. Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
I remember too that often heard what was going on when the class was up there in front reciting, and that was probably as much of a learning experience, you know, for overall. And there was always some of the smaller ones that needed help, extra help, and the teacher was busy, so he'd ask one of the older ones to go over and help them out, and very, very family oriented, which I really appreciated. And as far as bathrooms concerned, we had indoor and outdoor toilets. So we always had a drinking fountain in the basement, but we also had a pump outside with a tin cup. We all drank out of the same cup. We all stayed healthy.
Differences between your time as a younger student, older student? Anything there?
Well, because we had 2 rooms, we had, we were more individualized in, like 3rd grade, I was in the lower grade room, and then in 4th grade, you went to the upper grades room, so it was a little different. You became the oldest in your room, and then you became the youngest the next year, so that was a little different.
A couple of you, a valuable life lesson besides academics that you learned in one-room country school?
Well, the one thing that I was thinking of sharing about was that we played games, and that included, and to me they were part of my education because it included authors. And so, through my lifetime, I have recognized authors and the books they have written because we played authors a lot. And we played with bird cards too. So I learned the birds in that way. And we played Old Maid, and I don't remember that I learned anything.
Okay.
I think the thing that I learned was to respect all religions. As a child at country school, in both of the country schools, I was in the minority. Most of the kids were Amish. And so I learned to respect that they had a different religion, a little bit different than me, and that's why they dressed different. And I think that has served me well through the years, and I felt a lot of respect from them too, so.
Since we had an outdoor toilet, one lesson I learned was use the bathroom at home before you went to school. Probably respect for our teacher, I think. I mean, they carried a big load. They had 30, 40 kids or students in their schools, all grade levels, all levels of how they learned, and so they had to be pretty versatile, and most of them, deserved respect.
No, you don't have to talk at everyone.
One thing I learned outside the schoolroom was on the way home from school one evening, Merle Miller did something, and I can't remember what it was, but whatever he did, I tried to revenge, and so I got the mail out of his dad's mailbox and threatened to keep it until he either apologizes or whatever. Well, his dad saw this happen, and so he came out and gave me, and I was just this young kid, and it really left an impression on me.
Merle's back there. You want to give him the mail now? Well, okay, 2 or 3 of you pick up. One of the things that really has been in the news a lot in the last 15 years about elementary education is bullying.
Yes.
Is it better today, or was it worse there? I mean, I have kind of an embarrassing story. I kind of bullied Henry in kindergarten. Told him he should go to the outside restroom and didn't have any business in the one inside. So, in some ways, bullying You remember that, Henry?
I do, but we didn't call it bullying.
Yeah, we didn't call it bullying,
I'm
but,
not sure what we called it. We didn't have a name for it.
yeah. Okay, some of you pick up, is bullying worse now, or was it then?
I didn't have cyberbullying.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I do remember total respect for any 7th and 8th grade kid when I was younger. Whatever they said was, you did it.
Bullying went on, and sometimes it was physical. I mean, I remember one student in particular that, it was kind of a sport to hit him across his butt with a stick because it made a good sound. It really whacked. But I do remember on one instance when this happened, one of the girls, older girls, confronted the guy doing the bullying, and it ended then.
Okay.
I would guess that it's worse now than it was then, just simply because larger numbers of children are together and more diversity among the students, and I think that that's often what creates bullying.
Okay, a couple of you have talked about the community and the school. I'd just like to have one or two of you say, did you experience a tragedy at school, and how did you deal with it? I'll prime the pump a little bit. What happened to your school when Kennedy was shot?
That's exactly what I was going to ask the question. Does anybody remember what happened 55 years ago, Thursday 55 years ago? He obviously gave us the answer. So. But I remember, yes, I remember exactly where I was at.
Okay, tell us what you're
Yes, we were out playing ball, and the teacher came out and said the president got shot. And as a young boy, that really left an impression on me. I didn't know a whole lot about presidents or politics or, but that was like it was just, the whole school was.
I was already in 9th grade.
Oh, you're already out of it, yeah. Any other tragedies? I do remember at East Lincoln, we had the John and Martha Stutzman family had a fire, and that community just pulled together. I think maybe that was my youngest vision of what happens when neighbors pull together and help a family. People from all over brought clothes and helped rebuild. Any questions from the audience to these people? What question would have you wanted to have asked? Anything different?
How many students did you have in the two rooms, or combined?
I think there were 49 or 50.
If I remember right, we had 42 students that one year, one teacher at East Lincoln.
Was that Lois?
Yes.
Lois, where are you?
Lois could probably handle it, but ours couldn't.
We'll get into teacher transition a little bit later, so. Yeah.
I think Evergreen had 56 students one year. And I know the year I started, there was 11 of us starting, and there was 8 in the 8th grade. Some of the other grades weren't near as big, but those were two big grades.
One final question. What are kids missing today by going to a big city school?
Family spirit. The family spirit.
Close connection to their teacher,
Okay.
I think would be missing.
I would agree with that. I think I had 3 teachers in 8 years. But I have a question for Linda. I would imagine this from Snake Hollow, probably 75% of the students went on to high school, 25 probably didn't go at all. And of that 75%, probably, I don't know, 90% of those went to IMS, maybe more. And IMS was, it was a smaller school, and we knew people there. But I'm not sure how well the country schools would have prepared me to go to, say, not even Mid-Prairie, but say a bigger Iowa City, City High or somewhere like that. And Linda, you would have gone to Mid-Prairie? So, I mean, how did you feel that school prepared you for that?
Maybe socially I wasn't prepared, but I was, I think, academically, very well prepared. Mary Jane Smucker was our teacher when I was in 4th through 8th grade, so she was tough, and she was tough on us, and I think we learned a lot. I didn't feel really disadvantaged when I got to junior high at all. And I was actually, where we lived out there on Highway 1, we were right on the line. You could choose either Iowa City or Mid-Prairie, and I was actually registered for Iowa City. And 2 weeks before school started, my dad came home and said, we're going to Mid-Prairie because they have a brand new school and the taxes are half what they are in Iowa City. So we went to Mid-Prairie. Even though it was farther drive, we went to Mid-Prairie.
Linda, I'm really glad you said what you did earlier about learning some tolerance for other people's perspectives there, because that would be sort of a negative for me, because we were also homogeneous. So I had to learn those lessons later. We'll end with this one I said earlier. Your favorite time of the year, your favorite event, all-time favorite in elementary school, just go flying down the line.
The programs.
The Christmas program.
Well, our school didn't always do a Christmas program. Sometimes we did it in the spring, sometimes we did it at Thanksgiving. But the programs were amazing. We thought we were really actors and actresses.
I think there's a story about that in Frank's book about your school.
Oh, I think it was the books. Our teacher used to bring books up from the Iowa City Library, and we could take our pick and read them all.
Okay.
Oh, probably the programs, but not the program itself. Probably the 2 or 3 weeks leading up to the program when we didn't have to do anything. And of course, that last day of school, that school picnic, when it was over, that was a good day too.
Always ball games on the last day of school, and lost my thought, but I enjoyed the programs too a lot, and also the games that were played. There was a lot of different things, and the things we learned. I enjoyed arithmetic, and I wasn't that good at spelling, but we got by.
Probably the last day of school, I forget which year it was, but East Lincoln was undefeated when they played other schools. I think that one year they were undefeated, so.
Okay, sure enough. All right, thanks very much. All right, the next thing we're going to all participate in a number of songs, and my wife Susan Gingerich, Ruth Ann Bontrager, 2 people from Snake Hollow are going to lead us in some singing, all right?
Ruth went to East Lincoln. She didn't go to Snake Hollow.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, straighten that out.
I did a jump. Her husband went to Snake Hollow.
Yeah.
Ruth is East Lincoln.
That's right.
How many of you brought along the Together We Sing books? Okay, good. I thought that my book cover was tan, and I remembered some being red, so I was a little nervous that maybe the red ones got revised and some of the page numbers we say will not be the same. So we're going to put up the songs that we're going to sing, but as Ruth Ann and I went through our books together to find the favorite songs, the songs that we had fun singing, we sort of found that the book has songs in various categories. There were the favorites, of course, and we somehow seemed to like those that had silly words, like, hey, ding, dang, diddle, alla, day. We could somehow swear, but it was a song, you know? Or sim, salabim, bad, ba, saladu, saladim. Those were the fun songs. We'll do some of those this evening. But there were the nursery rhyme songs. There were religious songs that we sing in church. The patriotic section. There were Christmas songs. And then there were also songs that we would not sing today that are just inappropriate culturally wise and some of the words that are in it. So we definitely won't sing those. But we each chose some songs and some together. She's going to lead us. And so we're going to flip the songs up here. Some of you probably know them by memory. You probably can't see the words from way back there, but we're going to sort of start at the front of the book and lead some of these songs. So Ruth Ann, start us
Can you all
off.
see that?
Would it help to turn off some lights? Then you can't see your books though either.
Okay. Oh, just round the corner, a man dressed in white sells hot roasted popcorn from morning till night. Fresh popcorn, French popcorn. 5 cents will buy a little bag, salted just right. Just put it up a little bit more, the bottom line. It looks just like snow, but it's all piping hot. Pops like torpedoes and rattles like shot. Fresh popcorn, who has a nickel or a dime, I'd like a lot. Okay, let's go for it. Page 1, if you have the book. Oh, just round the corner, a man dressed in white sells hot roasted popcorn from morning till night. Fresh popcorn, 5 cents will buy a little bag salted just right. It looks just like snow, but it's all piping hot. It pops like torpedoes and rattles like shot. Fresh popcorn, who has a nickel or a dime, I'd like a lot. Now that was 2 verses. Now some of them were just like very short. The next one is Honk Honk. And I'm sure the boys like this song. Number 5. Honk Honk in my motor car. All around the world we go, very fast or very slow. Honk, honk, in my motor car. Honk, honk, honk. Okay, page 9, Rickety Jig. Fast, so fast, my horse can go, oh, rickety, rickety jig, you know, he's just a branch of a willow tree, oh, rickety jig, you see. Well, that was a short one, and that was, okay, 25, The Farmer in the Dell. There are 9 verses in that. I guess we have time to sing all of them? Okay, we'll just do,
There's 3 on there.
okay. It goes, I'll just read the others then. The farmer in the dell, the farmer in the dell, high over the area, the farmer in the dell. The farmer takes a wife, the farmer takes a wife, high over the area, the farmer takes a wife. The wife takes a child, the wife takes a child, high over the area, the wife takes a child. The child takes a nurse, the child takes a nurse, high over the area, the child takes a nurse. The nurse takes a dog, the nurse takes a dog, high over the area, the nurse takes a dog. The dog takes a cat, the dog takes a cat, high over the area, the dog takes a cat. The cat takes a rat, the cat takes a rat, high over the area, the cat takes a rat. The
The rat takes the cheese, the rat takes the cheese. I-O the dairy-o, the rat takes the cheese. The cheese stands alone, the cheese stands alone. I-O the dairy-o, the cheese stands alone.
Okay, 56, Pop Goes the Weasel. That's a very short one.
All along the chicken coop, the monkey chased the weasel. The monkey thought was all in fun. Pop goes the weasel. A penny for a spool of thread, a penny for a needle. That's the way the money goes. Pop goes the weasel.
118, 119, Frog Went A-Courting. Now this has a lot of verses too, so.
Which one? Can you give us a couple that we'll do? Tell us which ones you want.
Well, let's just do the first two and then maybe the, which one? The last one?
Sure.
Okay, 1, 2, Frog went a-courting.
And he did right, ripped him by Mitch Campbell, sword and buckler by his side, ripped him by Mitch Campbell. Cairo, down to Cairo, 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 Stradlala, Lincoln, ripped him by Mitch Campbell. He rode down by the millside door, ripped him by Mitch Campbell, to hear his saddle squeak and roar, ripped by Mitch Campbell. Cairo, down to Cairo, 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 Stradlala, Lincoln, ripped by Mitch Campbell.
Oh, that's enough.
27.
Can you say the title when you pronounce the number?
Is this my?
Yeah. No, it's not all.
Shall I use the other one?
There's another one over there. Yeah.
This one is called The Railroad Train. Clickety-clack-a-lunk-a-lunk. Remember that one? And when we sang it, by the time we got to the end of the second verse, we were going as fast as we could to get all those words in there. Clickety-clack-a-lunk-a-lunk, a train is coming a chunk, a clickety-clack, a mile away. It hasn't a second of time to stay. It sings a noisy crackety song, a rickety-rockety rackety song. You're on the track, get out of the way, go on. Over the bridge, across the lake, a mile a minute it has to make. A terrible snake with flaming eyes that wriggles and wriggles along the ties. The cinders fall in fiery rain. A tunnel is made to swallow the train. Come again! 136. Down in the valley. Let's do verses 1 and 3, down in the valley, and then build me a castle. Down in the valley so low, hang your head over, hear the wind blow, hear the wind blow, hear the wind blow, hang your head over, hear the wind blow. Build me a castle 40 feet high, so I can see him as he rides by, as he rides by, dear, as he rides by, so I can see him as he rides by. The next one is Dinah, Won't You Blow, 137. Dinah, won't you blow, Dinah, won't you blow, Dinah, won't you blow your horn. Dinah, won't you blow, Dinah, won't you blow, Dinah, won't you blow your horn. Someone's in the kitchen with Dinah, someone's in the kitchen, I know. Someone's in the kitchen with Dinah, strumming on the old banjo. Fee-fi, filly-I-o, fee-fi, filly
old banjo.
Skip to My Lou, number 99. And it was fun to hear some of you sing the harmony on the last one, because I think some of these songs that we learned, we'll do a couple of echo songs here, those were ways that we learned how to sing parts, as well as we did in church as well. But let's do Skip to My Lou, I've Lost My Girl, Now What'll I Do? And I'll get another one, a better one too. I've lost my girl, now what'll I do? Lost my girl, now what'll I do? I've lost my girl, now what'll I do? Skip to my Lou, my darling. Skip, skip, skip to my Lou. Skip, skip, skip to my Lou. Skip, skip, skip to my Lou. Skip to my Lou, my darling. I'll get another one, a better one too. I'll get another one, a better one too. I'll get another one, a better one too. Skip to my Lou, my darling. Skip, skip, skip to my Lou. Skip, skip, skip to my Lou. Skip, skip, skip to my Lou. Skip to my Lou, my darling. Did any of you do the dancing, the swinging or anything? We could only sing about it, right? Couldn't do it. Okay, what's the next one there, John? 148 to 149. When I was a lad, I served a term as office boy for an attorney's firm. Do any of you remember singing this as it was written? So as it's written, the boys are to start. When I was a lad, I served a term. And then the girls come in as an echo. Did you sing it that way, or did you sing all the parts? Sometimes you did? Okay. Let's try it that way, where you men will begin, and then the females, the women come in wherever it says chorus, because it's sort of an echo to that. Let's try one verse and see how it goes. It's a little hard to see that with on both sides of the page there. Did I say the number of that? 148? Okay. Okay, men. When I was a lad, I served a term as office boy for attorneys firm. I cleaned the windows and I swept the floors and I polished up the handles of the big women. He polished up the handles of the big front door. Now I am the ruler of the Queen's thing. He polished up the handles so carefully that now he is the ruler of the Queen's Navy. You want to do another one? Let's try it again. You guys got the hang of it? Okay, the next verse is, as office boy, I made such a mark that they gave me the post of a junior clerk. I served the writs with a smile so bland. I don't understand why it was bland. And I copied all the letters in a big round hand. It rhymes with hand. Okay, men, here you go. As office boy, I made such a mark that they gave me the post of a junior clerk. I served the writs with a smile so bland that I copied all the letters in a big round hand. He copied all the letters in a big round hand. I copied all the letters in a round hand. I copied all the letters in a hand so free that now he is the ruler of the Queen's Navy. Okay. And then this is one of those where it's sort of an echo. So let's have this side of the room start. Here, look in the garden bed. And this side is going to echo. Here, look here. Here, look in the garden bed. It's basically repeating whatever they're singing up there until you get to the end. You have to watch that you end at the same time, so you're not repeating everything. Okay, let's get this side going here.
What, could we have the page, please?
Oh, sorry, 87. Okay. Does this sound familiar to some of you? Yes. And not to others? Okay. This side will start. Here, look in the garden bed. Something beautiful is growing. Bright shaped like a cup of red. Two little ornaments to the sunlight.
covering it.
Yes, okay.
Let's start.
If anybody has a favorite that's just burning on your heart, say it right now. There's just lots of fun ones. It was just hard to what's that? That's not in this book. Is Kookaburra in this one? Well, let's sing it, we know it. Kookaburra sits in the old gum tree, Mary, Mary, king of the bush is he. Laugh, Kookaburra, laugh, Kookaburra, gay your life must be. And there's one of those songs where we sang a lot about gay things. They were happy. They were happy.
Well, good. Vernon, Rob, would you come up here, please? After Vernon's coming up, and I'll introduce him and his story in just a second, but after that, I'm going to have all the people who taught come up here, and we'll do some interviewing then. I don't want to see hands. Now, I'm a retired pastor, so this is kind of like an altar call, but I don't want to see hands, all right? Anybody here get held back a grade? I don't want to know. This is about something about that, and Vernon told me the story, and it's pretty remarkable, the effect it didn't have on him, and the tenderness of his teacher. So, tell us the story, Vernon.
Oh, I don't know. It's tough. First of all, I'm Vernon Ropp, and I come from a big family. I have 9 sisters, 2 brothers. I have 3 twin sisters. Oh, everybody's real quiet. How's that possible? Well, I got 2 sets of twins. Kate and Edith were one set, and Verda was the other one. She's a twin to me. So I and Verda, we went to Pleasant Hill School. Where's Pleasant Hill School? It's right here in the city limits, right by the water tower. And it's still there today. But it's a house. But from the outside look, it's never been changed. It's still Pleasant Hill School. And my first teacher I had in that school was Grace Shetler. And the last teacher I had was Mrs. Paul Snyder. And I think we had one every year in between. And a different one.
What does that say about the school?
And, well, we didn't have running water.
Oh.
That's definitely not. And we didn't even have a sink to wash our hands besides the pump water when I went to school. And maybe Verda confirmed that a little more. And then later on, she taught Pleasant Hill School. And most of the kids there in that school were Amish. There was only a few that weren't. And when I started to school as first grade, I couldn't talk English. I talked German. And I couldn't talk plain. Man birthday's December the 6th. Hey, this is nothing for me to laugh at. There was a bully there. But I didn't know what to call it. And it got pretty bad. My teacher wrote a letter home, sent it with my sisters to my folks to take me to the doctor because I don't talk. And the doctor said he's got a lot of siblings. Let him grow up. He'll talk aplenty. And he'll tell him to shut up. I heard my mother tell me that more than once. And every rock reunion since. So much for that, I guess. And it took me 40, 50, 60 years to know the difference. 40-year wedding anniversary. We had kids had an open house for us at the church. And this teacher that flunked me one year, she flunked me the 2nd or 3rd grade. And I had how you flunk a 2nd grade? And when we went to class, you know, we had one bench. And teacher would ask me a question. Verda would answer it. Verda talked for me. Verda covered up for me many, many times. Thank you, Verda. Anyway, at our 40th wedding anniversary, this teacher came to us. And she was in a line. I thought, I'm surprised she's here. She came up with arms, opened up, gave me a big hug and a kiss. Can you forgive me? And then I had to cry. So there was a lot of speculation at Pleasant Hill School, and there was only 3 left in our class. I'm the only one living today of that class. And the 18, I think 18 was probably the most that attended there. But we had all Mennonite teachers all the way through. And your songs tonight, I didn't hardly know any of them. Of course, when Ezra Shank talked, we used the Lifetime #2 songbooks. And when, Mrs. Paul Snyder, what was her name? Catherine Snyder. There again, we used church hymnals or other books. And, but that's all part of it. We had singing at the school on Friday afternoons a lot of times.
When you talked to me about this a couple of weeks ago, I asked you if you feel ashamed for being held back.
Oh,
talk about that.
Really? No, I didn't know what was going on. I didn't. I should have maybe, but I didn't really know what was going on. I was glad Verda was ahead of me. She was smart and sharp, and I was dumb. I was back here.
Well, I do think there is some sort of maybe divine justice that a person who couldn't talk ended up being a salesman. Using your tongue for a living.
Is that why? Is that why? Anyway, this teacher, she's not living anymore. And it was Mrs. Floyd Yoder, Marjorie. She was a teacher, and you probably all know her. I didn't know if I should say it or not.
Are any of her sons here?
Anymore. Are any of her boys here?
They show up sometimes, but they're not.
And when she passed away, I went to the visitation down here at Yoder's, and they asked me if I would tell them this story to the family, and I did. They had never heard it, that she came and asked for forgiveness. We're never too old to ask for forgiveness in any way, shape, or form. And we had a lot of good experience at Pleasant Hill School. And I got one other thing about Pleasant Hill School. I'm at Pleasant View Home, independent living. And we've got a lady there by the name of Tina Tenner. Anyway, she doesn't really have any relatives coming in to visit her. She's always by herself. And she spends hours on the south side of the friendship room in the daytime looking at the flowers I have out there and the birds. And I take a little time out to sit down and talk to her. And I told Berta to come over and talk to her. And she was born and raised southeast of Riverside. And one day she said, "Vernon, I went to Pleasant Hill School." I said, "You did?" "Yeah, I was a kindergarten at Pleasant Hill." And I was in grade, she called it A1. And I guess that was primary, or A1 is what she called it. And I had an older student there that always looked after me. She was my mommy. I said, "What was her name?" "Ella Mae Rock." But she said, "Ella Mae." I said, "Ella Mae Rock?" "Yeah, that was it. She looked after me." She said, I said, "That's my sister."
That's part of that community that cares for each other that some of you talked about.
And I said, "She's my sister." She looked at me and she had tears. She said, "Do you have a picture of her?" I said, "Yes."
There you go.
Right here she is, standing in the center of that picture. That's before I went to school. That picture there is a real old one I found in Esther's file. And Ada and Edith are on here, but from there Martha and me and Verda are not on here. And she really treasured that picture. She knew Ella Mae Roth. Ella Mae Roth died, I think she was, what, 14 years old in 1944?
In the 8th grade.
In the 8th grade, and she got sick in school, and 2-3 days later she passed away. She had some kind of a blood disorder, and the folks never knew it. So I'll quit, or else I'll talk too much.
Remarkable interaction between teacher and student. And what surprised me is that he didn't seem to carry a lot of weight. I would have been so embarrassed if I'd have been held back. I know some other people that sort of wrecked their life. Those who taught in country schools, you don't all have to come up, but I'd like to have 5 or 6. Come up. We'll ask you a few questions. Come on up. Lois will come because she will because I was one of her teacher's pets. You only believe about half of what I say, all right? Come on, Ed.
When I was teaching at East Lincoln, the kids all put their names. It was the naughty kids all put, well, the children all put their names on this sheet. And right here, big, is Firman Gingerich. And I want to tell you that Firman is taking a big risk to give me the microphone. I could tell you a lot of stories, but it's getting kind of late.
Oh, well, I'm going to run the clock here, so you sit down.
I want to say this, not only Firman on here, but Henry Slapa and all his brothers and sisters. Where is Henry now?
He's back here.
Oh, okay. Any of your siblings here? Mariana?
I called my sister this morning and wondered if she wanted to come along. She said yes. I stopped in to pick her up and she said, oh, I forgot.
Well, okay.
My other sister was going to be here, but I don't see her.
So I have to tell you my favorite story is about Mariana, and some of you probably have heard it. When she was one of my big girls, and Firman was one of my big boys also, but Henry was my cute little kindergartner, first and second grade. But it was Mariana's job to go to the basement to check the bathrooms when the girls' bathroom, when school was out. Somebody else had to clean the erasers and all that. But Mariana went down to check the girls' bathroom, and she came running up the stairs and she said, "The pot is walking out." I'm not real good on my Dutch, but I figured out eventually that the stool was running over.
All right. So, I'm going to just ask a couple of questions, and here's my biblical advice. Whatever thou doest, do thou quickly, all right? Each of you talk a little bit. At the end of the school year, teaching one-room country school, what were 2 or 3 of the benchmarks that you would have thought that made that a good year?
One of the best things was the cooperation of the parents. You knew that what happened at school, the kids would all find out because the siblings would tell on them. And the parents were always back of you. You knew that they were going to support whatever you did. And we'd be invited home for supper,
into the homes a lot of times, which was keen because then you knew why the kids acted the way they did.
Okay, Ed, for you, a benchmark or two that it was a good year.
Oh, well, I lived through it. And it was, a relief. It was nice to visit, have the parents. I remember one year, the last day it rained. And I bought a 16 millimeter projector, and I had a good film that, well, it was the kind that you probably see some of it, they used to see it, look at it, the implement stores maybe, I'm not sure whether it was that type or not, because I never really saw any, but I think it was, the name of it was The River, and it was a very, it was a documentary about the history of the Mississippi River, and I had quite a few Amish, and they enjoyed it too.
I liked it, okay. Maybe this is a question. When we hear stories of elementary school, a lot of stories come to the surface about paddling. Why? Yeah, talk about school discipline in those days and the support you had from home, the superintendent. You had quite the age range. Why does that get talked about so much as we remember the stories? I will just say I never got paddled at school.
You want to confess that? Hey, just before, I wanted to bring something out when you were talking about those different schools that were all rural. Brush number 8 was part urban. We had a big city of Amish or Joetown. And there was a different culture of kids, for the most part, that came out of that were mixed in with us. Lois was
maybe Lois wants to talk. Did you ever have to, you never used a switch when in the 4 years I had you?
I don't remember of ever paddling anyone in this, and when I taught in Newfoundland, I did. But I didn't need to.
Well, I didn't know if you wanted me to tell about it myself or about about whether I don't remember a lot. I think I gave a lot of swats. Maybe 1 or 2 swats sometimes just to wake them up or get them on task. It was a lot easier than it was to sometimes talk your way at it.
How many got paddled? A few. How many stuck their nose in a chalk circle? All right. 2 teachers. How did you get recruited to a different school as a teacher? How did that happen?
Back then, I guess teachers were scarce because they came and said, will you be available this year?
Somebody from a different school board had come and... Okay.
Well, actually, I was at Prairiedale for 3 years, and I decided that if I want to stay in education, I better finish. I had just 2 years of college at the time, and I had a year at Heston, and they picked up almost a year while I was in 1W service at Evanston, Illinois, and then with the summer school, I had enough to teach, and I taught 3 years. But the 3rd year, there were 2 teachers in our building, because I had 41 the 2nd year, and 30 of those were from 3rd grade and under.
Oh, wow.
And so and the next year, there was supposed to be like 46. So the superintendent, or Grace Fern, says, you better get some, because we couldn't all get in, hardly get in, we had to take turns.
You both taught in public schools as well. One-room country schools were public, but you both taught in town schools too, and you were principal ed. What's a big difference between a one-room country school and a graded country school class, or a town's class? Lois, what was the big difference?
Well, probably preparation time was one of the biggest problems. In the one-room school, it took a lot of preparation time. But somehow or other, there wasn't the camaraderie. In the country school, there was a lot of camaraderie.
Yeah, it was, you kind of learned to fly by the seat of your pants, I guess is what you would say in the country schools. And, but I always, generally I had very good parent cooperation. Grace Ferns, who was the county supervisor, she helped me a lot. All right, I had all kinds of problems.
Her legacy is written in Frank's book. She's well documented.
Yeah, she was good.
Do you have some questions of teachers? Do you have more to share about?
I will spread this out over some chairs, and so some of you, I know, Merle, well, there are others that are, it was, I'm trying to, it says what years it is. I'll spread it out for the people that are in.
Yeah, there would be several of us from East Lincoln. Sharon?
What was the pay scale? Did you get paid according to how many kids you?
Pay scale. How did the school boards determine pay?
I just know I started out at $185 a month for 9 months. And then I took whatever they paid me. I didn't try to negotiate.
I got, this was back in 55, 56. My first year I got $375 a month for 9 months and a week. So, well, I think that was for the extra time that you had to put in or something like that. And then they raised it to 400. And then when they got to 2 teachers, I agreed to, so that they wouldn't, these farmers wouldn't feel so overwhelmed. I agreed to go back to what I got the first year, 300. But I did find out, because I think I had by far the largest enrollment in the schools that year, back in those years. And I did discover that I would think I was probably one of the highest paid too, so.
Yeah. Did you get any things from family farms? Pack of meat, chicken, ducks? Okay, that's part of the pay. Any other? Yeah.
How did you help your students prepare for the 8th grade exams?
The question was, how did you help students prepare for the 8th grade exam?
Well, I warned them it was going to happen. They would, you worked with them what you could, but as far as I know, they all passed it.
Okay, Lois?
I remember of trying to teach them how to take a test, not to be tense, but to just do the best that they can, not guess if you don't have to, but to just really work at it and not just mark anything.
Yeah, I have a question. I have a comment I'd like to make. This didn't happen, this happened later on. When I was taught at Washington Township, the very first year I taught, it was still considered a rural school because Grace Ferns would come. But then next year, I had Irene Kaufman, who was one of Abe Kaufman's daughters, and she was a very good student. And she was kind of disappointed because when they were in Mid-Prairie, we were part of Mid-Prairie, they didn't have to take the 7th and 8th grade tests. And she was disappointed. I said, well, why are you so disappointed? Well, because my brothers and sisters all were in the top, 85, 90%, and they got the special honors, and she wasn't going to get to do that, and I'm sure I'd have made it. And I told her, I'm sure you would have too.
Well, I heard Vilma Yoder said that one of her brothers was the smartest student she ever taught in all her years. and she wished he could have gone on to be a doctor or something.
She told me that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
She told me I was the smartest.
Well, that's why teachers got along so well. All right. Any other comments you want to make?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Actually, two. One is, how did they feel at the end of the school year? Not the benchmarks, but were they so relieved?
Yeah.
And the other question is, did the men get paid more than the women?
Okay, question, that's in Frank's book, and I think Frank says, yeah, the men usually got a little more than the women. Is that right, Frank? Yes. But the question, how did you emotionally, physically, psychologically feel when you finished the school year?
That's kind of,
Kind of like when I have a low sugar for until you get recuperated from it.
when Henry mentioned about the president being shot, I was a teacher there then, and I remember of Martha Stutzman calling on the telephone and said that the president had been shot. And I was in tears. I had to get control before I could go out and tell the children. And I remember a closeness, a feeling like the children were all with me, and we wanted to help each other.
How did you find out he got shot?
A neighbor lady, Martha Stutzman, called her.
Oh, okay.
And I will say, being a student there were 5 or 6 that walked uphill all the way home the way I went, you know. I don't think we said hardly anything all the way home. We were just, you set the right tone. We were grieving. We were wondering, just sad as could be, perplexed. Yes.
How many schools had, in the mid-40s or a little later, I guess what we called them was DP children, you know, the displaced person families that came over?
I'll repeat your question. He's asking how many schools had DP, displaced children, or families from mostly from Germany probably, that came in and settled into the communities. How many schools had families like that?
I was teaching in Idaho back, I taught out there for 5 years. Two of those years were in the public school, 5th and 6th grade. This is when Kennedy was shot, and I remember the 1st and 2nd grade teacher and her children were going back to their room, and she told me what had happened. We were just going to lunch. But it's interesting, all that happened, but...
Did you have any, well, you might have been a little later. You said in the 40s.
I had some... Mid-40s. I did have some migrant children, that is, from Mexico. There's a lot of Mexican kids. I had a number of those that came in momentarily for a couple months. And then also, one year I had a guy, and he wasn't there the whole year, but he was he was an Indian. And he had some learning problems, but it's interesting in talking to his father or his caretaker, he said, you know what? And I don't doubt it a bit. He said, if you two were out in the timber somewhere, he could exist and you couldn't.
Do you have a story?
Just that we had a family with Norman Brennemans, and Gerhard Willer was the same age as what I was, well, 1 year behind, and we all just kind of took him under our wing, and I don't know how he learned to speak English. Maybe had some of it when he came, but...
See, that's the beauty of a small community. You can do that. That's wonderful. I'm going to transition. You just stay here. I want to hear pranks that should be written out. Major pranks. Do any of you have stories? I'm going to tell one, but I'd be happy to receive several stories of pranks. Ruth Ann, your husband isn't here, is he, Norman? But I'm going to tell his. He told me the other night, and if he'd be here, he'd tell him. Norman's Snake Hollow. he said, this used to happen all the time in schools. Weather would be nice in the spring, and you'd go play ball on a Friday afternoon with a neighboring school. And one Friday, the boy said, we're going to go over and play Prairie Dale. I have no idea who the teachers are, better I don't. And we're going to go play Prairie Dale and ball. And no, didn't go. Teacher wouldn't let him. Next week they said, teacher, can we go over? No, won't work out today. So he said the third week, the older boys, Norman said he was still in third grade or something. He wasn't old enough to be on the ball team, but he knew what was coming. The bell rang after noon recess. All the little kids went in the room, and the big kids were gone. The teacher said, where are the big kids? Well, they went to Prairie Dale. For what? They're going to play ball. So she gets in the car. She gets in the car, and nobody's watching the little kids apparently, but she gets in the car and heads toward Prairie Dale and turns in front of them to block them and gets her car stuck. Now this is the beautiful part. So these guys then pull her out, and then they push her back in. And they teased her a little bit. I don't know if you ever heard that story, but they teased her a little bit, and then they went home. I think they got a good bit of punishment, but Norman said it was just kind of fun to watch that happen. Do any of you have any other? There's some out of East Lincoln some guys over here could talk about. Johnny, you want to talk about one of those? Here, let's put it on the mic, John.
I don't know where Henry was at, but we always did.
Give me that mic.
We had two outhouses, the girls and the guys, so I don't know. But I brought a little stuff here I want to show you. We talked about kid tournament, right? But before that, Fred Gingerich, his brother, we were best friends. Anyway, we used to play. He had a basketball hoop in Dad's barn. So we didn't have these fancy suits. So we had a pair of jockey shorts. I think maybe
There's still some life in them.
And then anyway, okay, then I got a little bit bigger, and then we were playing in the kid tournament, and then, anyway, Sharon number 4, Dumb 100, East Lincoln, that was our name, but anyway, we were red and white, and then I...
Still number 1.
Anyway, and we did play Kalona at one time, and Ron Harlan was the coach at that time. I don't know, he couldn't have been, he was just in high school maybe. He was coaching, and then he says, take care of that Amishman over there. And then the kid said, which one? So anyway, he said, 11.
I will tell you, a bunch of us went to East Lincoln, and it had the nickname Dumb 100. We were always embarrassed. I don't know if Lois was or not, but when I was a pastor in Goshen, Indiana, I found an old lady who had been the teacher there in the late 20s, Nona Kaufman. She had taught at East Lincoln, and she was coherent until she was 101. I went to visit her when she was about 98. She wasn't in the church I was at, but I went to visit her, and I said, tell me about the name Dumb 100. And she said, oh, I hated it. And I said, well, tell me how I got it. And we've told the story now, so anybody from East Lincoln probably knows it. But what happened, a couple of kids that were out of school, they were past 8th grade, came by, this was in the early 20s, came by the school the year after they were out, and they were having music class. The windows were open and they were singing. And the story goes, one of them said to the other, what in the world are they singing? And they're just singing that old Dumb 100 song. Now, if you look in the book, Praise God from whom all blessings flow, the tune is Old Hundred. And there's several other songs that have Old Hundred as a tune. So they were singing one of the songs with Old Hundred as a tune. So, man, did I ever feel better at about age 45 when I found out that it got its name that way and it wasn't about our gray matter.
Didn't happen in the Sunday school?
Well, it might have been.
That's what I heard.
Okay. Well, no, she said it happened in the school. But who knows? Our stories aren't all the way everyone remembers. We want to make a lot of time for you to talk together. There's Daniel nicely has brought a lot of really good pictures of Evergreen School over there. So if you have any history at Evergreen, go there and thank him. There's other memorabilia. Frank's book. Frank, do you have anything to say to us?
I have said it all in the book.
Yeah, that's a remarkable book, and I know I've been talking to the people at the Johnson County Historical Society. She told me that Frank's a wonderful guy, and I said, yeah, I think so too. So take a look at the book. At this point, the only place you can buy them that I'm aware is at the Historical Society. The Mennonite Museum is closed for the winter, but I'm sure we'll have them in the spring. But you can get them here, you can get them there.
Hills Bank has them.
Hills Bank has them? All right. They're a little cheaper at Hills Bank, I think. I'll bet. Yeah. Anything else from our board? Niall?
Thank you very much, Firman, for the program. Let's give Firman and participants a hand. Since I got the microphone, I can tell some stories now, too. When I was somewhere in the middle grades, there was a guy that was kind of a bully, but one of the things I remember, he swung the bat and hit me in the head, and I got a black eye. And so then at the program, I had this black eye, so the teacher gave me this little thing. Sim Sai gave me a black eye, Pa gave me a thrashing, 'cause teacher gave me a licking, 'cause Sim Sai gave me a black eye. Wouldn't that make you sigh? I experienced some punishment. I don't know if you call it capital punishment or not, but we had one teacher who would slap students across the face. That was her way. She didn't spank anybody, but she slapped us. So one day I was, I used to trap gophers, and so I set a trap on the way to school or the way home. And one morning on the way to school, my gopher trap had a skunk in it. And I didn't want to mess with it, so I didn't do anything with it and went to school. And sometime during the school day, I was sitting at my desk, and it was probably recess time, and I was talking and said I had this skunk in a trap. And somehow that incensed her, and she just gave me a slap. I have one story from my dad's days. They had an outhouse, and during recess, two boys went in the outhouse and locked the door. Well, then the other kids, of course, they got to pester a little bit, so they started knocking on the door, and there was a knot hole in the side of the outhouse, and so they stuck sticks through and tried to poke the guys inside. So the guy inside grabbed the stick and pulled it in, dipped it down in the hole, and stuck it back out. We didn't have an outhouse, so we couldn't do that. There is coffee and refreshments in the back, and so enjoy those and spend some time telling stories to each other. Thank you very much for coming.
Good.